Happy holidays, and depending on when you watch this, Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you're all having fun with your new games, or consoles, or computers, or maybe instead you're waiting for an upcoming game that's just over the horizon. There's lots to be excited about after all, like Tekken 8, Uni, Project L, Rivals of Aether, and the bunch I must have missed in between. With all this hype and excitement though, I'm beginning to notice a sense of dread that's been welling up within me. And I don't mean to take things in a negative way here, as it's great to see the FGC flourishing after the pandemic and making truly awesome video games for their communities, but I think we're also in for divisive times ahead. What I mean by this is that we aren't just looking forward to new games, we, as customers, are looking forward to updates for games we've already bought like Street Fighter 6 or Mortal Kombat 1. These big titles have even bigger expansions planned with more characters, single-player content, and ways for us to interact with each other. So many people just hopped back onto Street Fighter only because they added additional costumes for most of the cast. And the influx of players who came back to MK1 for Omni-Man is no joke either. And that's what fighting games are all about nowadays. They're not just there to bring you in, they want you to stay for the long haul. The cherry on top of all of this is that it isn't just new games or new content that has our attention either. Fighting games during and after 2020 pretty much needed rollback netcode to be viable in a competitive sense after the pandemic, and many devs heard that call to action.
When it comes to fighting games, you know what I want? I want to wake up and not have to think. I hope any of the 3 or 4 fighting games come out next year have good netcode. I'm not asking for a battle pass. I'm not asking for $34 million prize pool. I'm literally asking for the game to be playable online.
Some games were screwed over though because of this shift, as the focus used to be on local multiplayer, not online. Those games that fell behind during the pandemic for this reason are Dragon Ball FighterZ, Sam Show 2019, and Granblue Fantasy Versus. All 3 games are absolutely fantastic and extremely unique between them, but they didn't get a fair shot in the online era of fighters.
Was mashing auto combo in my face, and the lag said he could do it. 4-frame delay.
But guess what? All 3 of them either just got rollback implemented or a rollback beta within a month of each other. So of course, players in all 3 games spiked. Even games older than that like KOF 13 are retroactively getting players back on board because of this. Granblue Fantasy is an extremely unique case actually, as it didn't just get rollback implemented, it got a whole dang sequel. The game now has a free-to-play model, mini-games for extra fun, and the entire cast of DLC from the original game are in the base roster of the sequel. I personally thought there was no reason to buy Rising since I paid for both season passes and the base game of the original release, but I was wrong. The sequel has more than enough to justify its existence and I can't wait to jump in on it. Everyone's just having so much fun. But in the near distance, something, a presence, hangs over me. Looms over the FGC, and I can't shake how it's growing larger and larger by the day. That presence, of course, is Under Night In-Birth 2. It also comes out in January, only a month after the release of Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising. It's another sequel that closely resembles its predecessor on the surface, but man, Uni is just awesome. French Bread never fails to blow me away with their games, so I'll be there on release, no matter what. But that comes at the cost of Granblue for me. I can't seem to justify spending the money on it, and I definitely can't see myself spending more than a month on the game because I know I want to play Uni more. Having 2 major anime titles come out this close to each other feels like a trolley problem, one in which I can only choose one game and the other has to sit there as I choose its fate. Live service model of fighting games nowadays really exacerbates this problem even more. Down the line, I know there's going to be DLC in Granblue that I'm going to want to play. Hell, they just announced 2B, and she looks awesome. I'm happy for the people that get to play it, but I just kinda have to watch from a distance, even though Granblue is a game I loved when it came out, and I even went for all the trophies. But this one trophy is RNG and I can't seem to get it no matter what I do, and if you guys have any tips, please let me know in the comments. It's driving me nuts. Unfortunately, the rapid pacing of games has already taken casualties as well. Melty Blood Type Lumina is a fascinating case of a fighting game release, as it was widely successful for a game that niche, and it hit great numbers at the start. To keep up the momentum, French Bread even released free DLC to keep the game fresh and also changed the whole flow of how the fights worked with solid patches. The game had everything going for it and more, yet whenever I tried to play on ranked last year, I could only be matched up with Japanese players, and if I did get a match from someone more local, we just weren't close in terms of skill.
Right, I'm gonna go check it out alone. Why? Well, because you'll be here. And if the gang comes back, they'll also be here, and I'll be there alone. Right. But you'll be here. Great.
Maybe that is just the fate of a game as niche as Melty Blood, but it's part of that fear I have for Uni 2. Uni is also very niche as a series, and sure, tons of people are on board now, but how long will that support last? How long is it supposed to last? How long can it last? Live service models and strings of big releases are gonna make it difficult for communities to grow, I fear, especially when they deserve more. Uni is an awesome example of this for these reasons, but also because it comes out only 4 days before Tekken 8. Who knows what the overlap of players is between the most popular 3D fighter and a niche anime air dasher is in reality, and my guess is that it's pretty small, but there's gonna be a lot of hype around Tekken 8 that will take the spotlight away from Uni, which may already struggle a few months after release. Tekken 8 is going to be all we talk about for months, and the hype will persist years down the line with DLC, costumes, and stages. All of this isn't even to mention that Tekken 8, Mortal Kombat 1, and Street Fighter 6 are the biggest fighting game releases of the decade, and they all happened within a few months of each other, with only about 3 months in between each. We're truly entering a new era of fighting games, one that's shimmering with hope for the genre to grow bigger than ever, and for ideas to be explored that we've never seen in the past. So I want to leave this video off on a positive note, instead of sounding like a doomer. I personally love to explore every single fighting game I can get my hands on, because no two games are the same. From characters to system mechanics to even how the timer ticks down, every bit of a fighting game is an intentional choice made to support some kind of vision. Exploring fighting games allows you to experience these tiny differences until you understand what your ideal game might look like. Here's my list of games that I want to try out or return to during this crazy time, and why I think it'll be valuable in terms of a greater perspective. First off is Samsho 2019. Samsho as a franchise explores defensive mechanics more than any game I've played. Instant blocks, parries, disarms, bursts, and more are mechanics that support the backbone of what makes this game so unique. It's much less about combos and more about learning to juggle situations to always turn them in your favor, much like a real sword fight, because every single hit could spell death. Next up is Dragon Ball FighterZ. DBFZ is the game that got me to really love anime games, as before, they were kind of hard to digest visually. Too many flashes, explosions, and quick moving characters skipping neutral was a lot to process, but that's the beauty of it all. Defense suffers in this game on a mechanic level, and places tons of responsibility on the player's capability to cycle through active and passive defense, looking for the right opportunity to strike. Movement in Dragon Ball is so crisp, and every character got a massive overhaul from how the game used to play in seasons 1 through 3, so I think it's worth returning to. Because of how chaotic neutral is and how oppressive offense is, DBFZ makes me better at slower footsie games like Street Fighter. I feel more free to use cursed mix-ups, and blocking isn't as scary because it really just means less in the long run to lose a round than lose a whole character in a 3v3 game. Number 3 is Tekken 8. I'm not a big 3D player. I, like most, played Tekken back in the day in arcades or on my dad's PlayStation when we had Tekken 3, but I never took the plunge. The legacy knowledge is insanely intimidating, but I think I finally feel prepared to try it out for real. The new system mechanics and more lenient movement options are a massive appeal to players like me, even if it's to the chagrin of legacy players. I've been a Law main for as long as I can remember, but Azucena seems like a fun time, and that's a big draw for me. As for what Tekken can teach me, it's a game where matchups are king. Learning to analyze your opponent's character is how you get far in Tekken. Some strings get ducked, certain special moves get sidestepped, and other characters, you just have to pray for Harada to talk about.
Shut up! Shut up!
Being able to dissect matchups is how you improve at a high level in any fighting game, so Tekken is a great place to start as the dissecting begins from even the lowest levels if you're trying not to get mixed to death by Eddie Gordo. At number 4, I've got Uni 2. Under Night In-Birth, in my opinion, is one of the greatest fighting games I've ever played. Unfortunately, I didn't really try it until 2020 and the netcode was just okay. But once I found a friend to play with and we had consistent connections, I started to dive deeper and deeper into the mechanics. Combos are so freeform, movement is expressive, and the cast of characters feels unmatched in terms of being unique. It's one of those games that once you start learning it, you can't stop. It can consume you and show you things you never knew fighting games were capable of. This is Uni 2 propaganda, and I'm not gonna apologize. What Uni taught me is that you pretty much have never mastered a character. Even when you think you understand all their normals, specials, and supers, there's something new to mess with, and sometimes improving is a matter of being humble enough to accept that you don't know as much as you think you do. Lastly, Rivals of Aether 2. Rivals is probably my most anticipated game of 2024 considering how much I loved the first game. It pretty much embodies the message of this video for me, in that Rivals turns every idea we have about platform fighters into something slightly newer. Special moves out of throws are a great example, but there's also a ledge game that resembles something from the past, but it also can be used to change edgeguarding forever. And that's not even to mention all of the inspired characters that fill the roster of this game. I have pretty much no notes to add in terms of criticism based on what I've seen from Rivals so far, and I can't wait to learn more about the game as we get closer to its release. What can Rivals teach you about fighting games? Simply, Rivals is all about perspective. For us players, it's about keeping an open mind and embracing the new. Trying to play some of these games like others will lead you to ignoring certain parts of the game's identity. I tried to play Rivals 1 like it was Melee and completely ignored how powerful my recovery options truly were. It wasn't until I dove deeper and explored the new mechanics that the game made sense.
Sometimes I forget you're a Melee player. That was a real fucking yoink.
Yeah, I think that's something I've noticed that a lot of people, including myself, have trouble with, is that when you play Melee likes, you sometimes forget and start returning to Ultimate where you like ledge trap only.
Yeah.
And those are my top 5 games I'm most looking forward to playing in 2024, whether they're new or just revamped. I'm going to try and release more videos like this in between my big releases, so let me know in the comments if there's anything you'd want to hear me talk about in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.